Alrighty, for the recording, this is round 4 of Swiss. We have Kid versus Pinkie Pie. We've seen Kid's deck earlier today, and this time it's going to be up against Richard, who, if Dylan has been paying attention, he'll know roughly what's going to happen, but otherwise we'll let chat see it as it happens. Everything's ready on my end. You guys can go ahead when you're ready. Alright, both players mulling to 6 here. I think Richard has enough of an edge in game 1 that Dylan probably has to mulligan to Oblivion to like another opener. Both players keeping 6. This is probably going to be a discard spell or a cantrip. Inquisition, sure. Sees Probe, Unearth, Ajani, Emperor, Mountain, Shadowy Backstreet. So notably, if you take the biggest threat, Unearth can cast it again. I don't think you take Probe. I don't think you take Unearth. Does take the Probe. Okay. So you're just reducing the cards that Dylan has. Reduce how many top decks he has available. That's fair. I think that's reasonable. Assuming Richard's hand makeup is somewhat functional, taking Probe actually does make sense. Looks like we've got a cantrip. Nice, honest preordain. Scry's bottom. Alrighty, well. Oh, okay. Does have the second land. No stresses. Might be getting sewers, might be getting island. Gets a Volk, sure. Into consider. Alright. So a bit of wheel spinning here after taking a look at the hand. It's possible that Richard is taking a passive line, knowing Dylan's hand makeup and a lack of discard spells. It's possible also that he just needs to put something together, because obviously that's how the deck works. So we see a Ajani come down rather than Emperor. I think playing Emperor is fine there to reduce spell count and threshold count. But Ajani is more power, so I guess it depends on how much you think Emperor's triggers will matter versus how much a point of damage will matter. And I think the point of damage will always matter, so Ajani is the safer line. Get Thought Seized, reveal Caracas, Unearth, Emperor, Raucous Theater, take the Unearth. Oh boy, are we dead? Oh boy. This gets Citadel, and we just cross the fingers. Grim Monolith off the top. Sewers off the top. Keeps it on top. By the way, this is... Oh. Citadel into 'should kill So you get a 5 after the Doomsday, and you need to get to the bottom of your deck. You can cast 0 drops off the top with your Citadel. So that's going to be like the LED and the Lotus and a Petal. Storm counts at 7. Tendrils puts you to 1 from 5. So you just need to make... You just need to have enough 0 drops to cast off Citadel for Tendrils. Well, actually, you don't even need that many more, right? Because LED, Lotus, Tendrils puts you to 1 and puts exactly lethal. Brainstorm will win with Lotus and LED. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of piles, but I think Richard's probably going to keep it simple. I think you can actually just kill with LED, Lotus, Tendrils. No, we are going to get fancy. Hell yeah. I assume the Tendrils is in the main deck. Otherwise, you have to, like, wish for it. Yeah. Alright. That was real gross. Discard spell into Lotus, LED, tinker my LED, Citadel, hit Doomsday, win the game. That was gross. So that that is game 1 of our round 4 feature up. Richard very convincingly blew Dylan up. As a reminder, Dylan kept a very functional hand of 6 cards, played a tap land, played a 2-drop, and then died. That's why I love this format. Is because, yeah, sometimes you play a 2-drop, and then there's a board, and then you both trade resources, and you try and gain some equity. And sometimes you play an Ajani on turn 2, and then you die. That's great. I love this format. So going into game 2, Dylan is presumably going to have quite a lot that he's bringing in. The fact that he's in 3 colors and he has to maintain Lurrus probably means a bunch of hate pieces in white and maybe red, but probably white and colorless. He'll have a couple of stack interaction pieces in red and maybe like a duress to add on to a discard package. I don't know what Richard would be siding in. I don't know what a sideboard would look like for an actual factual Storm deck. I imagine there's probably a Wrath. There's probably a Tinker target. There's probably an extra Stormwind con, like an empty if it's not main. An empty or an Ignite Memories or a Brain Freeze or something. And then you kind of just need to keep the deck really lean, right? Like, if you're playing Blue Blast and Red Blast, I don't think you bring the Blue Blast in, and obviously you don't bring in the Red Blast. You might be playing an extra discard spell in the sideboard, like a Dreams of Steel and Oil. It kind of depends. I mean, if Richard's deck has a wish, like a Burning Wish or a Cunning Wish in the main board, that probably dictates a lot of his sideboard slots. So we'll see. Going into game 2, Dylan is going to take the play, obviously, and is going to keep his Lurrus active. No surprises there. Both players keeping 7. That's probably better for Richard than it is for Dylan. And doesn't have a turn 1 play. Not a discard spell, not a threat. So, presumably, there's going to be some Haymaker starting on turn 2. Which might be good enough. He might also just die right now. Which is crazy. But he could just be dead right now. Alright, doesn't look like anything crazy happening here. Dylan's going to surveil with a backstreet or a theatre. Richard not having a discard spell or a cantrip is interesting. It's possible he has something like that anyway and is keeping the fetch safe. Okay, so Dylan is firing off a turn 2 duress and sees Mystical Tutor, Badlands, LED, Vault, Doomsday, Predict, Chromatic Star. What do you take here? So if you take the MT, you stop getting tinkered. If you take the Doomsday, then you could die to tinker. And if you take the LED, the Vault of Whispers checks for the tinker and the star. Okay. So Duress takes the MT. And Richard is going to surveil. I'm not certain on the timing of this. I guess it looked like Dylan F6'd. Yeah, okay. No issues there. He wasn't going to get strip mine because Dylan already played the Windswept Heath, but just a little early on the sewers. So now... So we drew a bauble. Okay. We don't have a way to shuffle in hand. We have Badlands and a Vault. So it's probably just bauble go, right? And then you bauble yourself and then use predict, which is sick, by the way. This deck is nonsense and I love it. I mean, you might not even predict here, but I guess you're meant to. Like, you can use predict after you have Citadel in play, or you can use it here. Notably baubling Dylan rather than himself. I think you bauble yourself there, right? So that if you don't want to mill the card with predict, you just fire off predict later. Because now, like, if you see a land on top, you're still incentivized to mill the card, regardless of what it is, to draw your 2 cards. He spikes in a Johnny. Gross. And then draws off the bauble, so Richard's back up to a full grip here. And, I mean, Dylan's going to do something big this turn, right? That's big. Okay. So Richard has drawn 4 fresh cards, 2 off predict, 1 off bauble, 1 for the turn. -1 because the bauble is one of those fresh draws. So not unreasonable that he's drawn something for this high noon. Entirely possible that he's going to be cold for a while. At which point it's on Dylan to either deploy more hate pieces or some threats. While Richard presumably spends some time firing off cantrips and trying to find an answer for this high noon. This is a weird spot now. High noon's one of the better ones. Not a creature like Archon or Eidolon. Not a Stony Silence, which could just not do it. Oh, we're just firing off a D-Day into this high noon? I'm here for it. What is this pile gonna be? So we know, because of the Lotus, Richard isn't playing Thoracle. And he can spend 1 card a turn? He can play 1 card a turn and has to win with this D-Day? What are we doing here? Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be some kind of bounce spell in the Doomsday pile. But then what else is in the pile? Because we've seen a lot of the hand. There isn't much going on. It has to be like bounce High Noon, kill from hand. We know there's an LED. So you can put tendrils like second down. You're not going to be able to put much of a York World pile into this, but certainly not 0. You can shove Lotus, Petal, Darkrit, York World, Tendrils, Floodmore, like some combination of those 7 cards. Could be playing another bounce spell. But we know there's no Thoracle. So this has to be a full kill. Either right now or next turn. Next turn being far more likely. Considering Richard can't cast any more spells this turn. And then what happens if Dylan, like, strip mines your sewers? You're just dead? I mean, this game has essentially become condensed. Dylan has 1 turn where he can cast 1 spell, but can do other things. And either Richard will be dead on the spot, or Dylan will be dead on the spot. That is by far the most likely scenario for the rest of this match. Like, someone's going to be dead next turn. Do we know what point Storm is on? We've seen Tinker, Lotus, Mystical Tutor. So that's 6. I don't believe the 7th point has been revealed. But if we have a look... Mana Vault. Down here. Alright. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try and work out the D-Day pile from this, even though I could. I'm not going to, because that's horrific content. Dylan has this turn, and he has to do something very good. Crypt go. Okay. Crypt stops the York World piles. It's possible Richard takes a slower line here with a plan of bouncing High Noon and end step. But surely he's going for it now, right? Going for something now. Unless this crypt is dead. Okay. Here is a fish. Orcish Bowmasters. Okay. Notably, Bowmasters in response to the Into the Floodmore, so that Richard can't counter the Bowmasters because the High Noon is still in play. Lotus. No worries, Dracos. Thank you for playing and hanging out. It means a lot that these events have been pretty steadily hitting decent numbers. Kind of just gas. So opt, presumably cracking LED? No, we're not. We take 1. 3 cards in library, 4 cards in hand. Notably only need to hit Storm 8, or Storm 7. 8 tendrils. Ren's Resolve? Reveal Chain of Vapor Dark Ritual. Okay. So Chain can reset the Tormods. So there's a Yorgwill in hand or in library and a tendril somewhere. Chain of Vapor, the Crypt. Crypt you. Okay. Cast the Writ. 1 card in library, 3 cards in hand. Cannot crack LED to cast tendrils. Yorgwill, crack the LED. Yeah, okay, it was a full Yorgwill's tendrils line. That was an incredibly well-made Doomsday pile. I don't know if Dylan has any outs. I assume not. I assume just dead tendrils here. GG? GG! Pinkie Pie wins 2-0 versus Dylan Kidd. That was an incredibly well-played match, in my opinion. I think Doomsday into the face of a High Noon is like a ridiculously hard thing to sell, especially when A, your hand is a pile of cards, and B, your opponent knows a bunch of the cards. That was really well played. Not to take anything away from Dylan, I think Dylan played very well in game 2 in terms of what he duressed and how he sequenced his spells. Game 1 he played 1 spell and died, so not much to comment on there. But GG's.